and I'm going to show you the Custom Apparel Startups Facebook group. We're very proud of this. 3,300 people just like you guys. If you're not a member yet, you should be. We talk about all kinds of things custom apparel. Now, ColDesi sponsors it, and Coleman & Company sponsors it, so you'll see a lot of our stuff, but a lot of our customers have other equipment. You'll see questions about die sub printers. You'll see questions about cutters and software, and there's questions about embroidery techniques. And one of the two most popular questions I think are, where can I find this particular blank, and where can I get things digitized? There's a nice, where can I find patterned vinyl, and that's Coleman & Company, of course. How do I find this font that I want to use? It's just a great resource. It's full of ideas. How should I price stuff? That's a very common question. So definitely go to Custom Apparel Startups and sign up. I'm really excited about these new couple of pages on our ColDesi, on our CAS webinars page. That's the Custom Apparel Startups webinars, because we now have all of our recorded webinars in one place. So go to caswebinars.com. You can see all these ColDesi ones. There's Don, who's done a bunch of webinars. There's the most profitable bling machine, Viper 2 versus M2, bling machine options, embroidery and bling. Nice. There's a lot of stuff about Deco Network software and the Avance embroidery machine. There's really a lot of information there. If you're looking for info about cutters, etc., this usually takes a minute. Coleman & Company has done tons of webinars on doing rhinestones and specific things like making an American flat cap. So if you're in the business especially, you should look at caswebinars.com and look for what's coming up from both ColDesi and Coleman & Company. And of course, I just found out this the other day. We've had almost 5,000 downloads of the CAS podcast since January. That's not too bad. These are almost 1-hour sessions just on the business part of the business. So you won't find product demonstrations. You won't find a lot of very brand specific stuff. What you will find is tips for beating the competition, accessing the Hispanic or any niche demographic, all about the bling business, 5 things that will kill your business, making more money next month. It's just really intense audio recordings of what you should do to make more money. So those are the kinds of resources that we provide. And the last thing I'm going to show you is our support site, which we're very proud of. What's going on right now in the other room, it's just about to wrap up, is one of our Tech Talk webinars. And twice a week, one of our very qualified technicians gets on and does a free webinar for all of our customers. You can ask them any kinds of questions you want to. We do the embroidery software and the bling software. We do DTG tips and tricks, printing on canvas, printing on wood, maintenance checks, just a lot of great webinars and great information for our owners as well. So here at ColDesi, it's not kind of a thank you and goodbye after you become a partner with us. You really do hear from us from then on, okay? I think that's it for my commercial. So I'm going to turn it back over to Don. And it is about 1,000 degrees in our building right now. The feels like temperature here in Tampa, Florida is 103.
103.
And that's outside. Inside it's about 118, I think. That's what I think.
I think Mark's going through menopause. I'm not sure.
It could be. I will own that. I will own that. All right, Don, the basics of DTG.
All right. Hey, welcome. Hey, thanks. As Mark's already said, thank you all for taking some time tonight out of your busy schedules to be here with us. If you're on the West Coast, hey, I'm glad you all got a break to get off work a little bit early and to be here with us. Kind of want to cover the basics, the real basics of direct-to-garment, what you need to do, what equipment is involved in it, and the kind of the cost associated with output. And I want to be very open to you guys. Ask me questions as we go along about the process, about the equipment and whatnot, and we go from there. We're using our M2 tonight just as an example, but it has nothing to do specifically with the machine itself. It's going to be similar for the extra costs associated with it with our Viper 2, because really the differences in the productivity of the machines and the durability of the machines but the cost associated, like the pre-treatment machine, is the same pre-treatment machine you would use with both. The heat presses are the same. You know, platens are going to be generally folks spend about the same extra on platens as we go. So, real raw and basic. Let's just start out. What is DTG? DTG stands for direct to garment printing. Okay, direct to garment printing really got started about. The first machines were sold in like 2004. They were shown at the SGIA show in Minneapolis, and since that time it's kind of exploded. We were one of the first companies to jump into the marketplace. We became a distributor for one of the early brands back in January of 2005, and by the end of that year we'd already begun a search to have a product that was our own, so to speak, that we were able to distribute and not just be a dealer for. And that's where the DTG brand came in. We partnered with two companies that were also embroidery partners of ours across the world, one in Australia, one in England, and the DTG brand was founded. We've been through 5 generations of machines, the M series being our 4th generation, and the Viper 2 being the generation 5 machine, and we kind of overlap our machines. And things have really changed over the years. I look back, I read a lot of our early educational products and stuff, and things we used to tell people as gospel to do are things we tell you absolutely not to do now. So the industry has evolved over these last 12 years as well, because it's just new. It's technology we didn't understand. I'd been through this type of revolution in the sign industry. A little different here between the sign industry and the apparel industry, in that we don't have control over our substrates like sign guys do. Because most stuff that sign people do, they're applying to something. So you can control the substrate you're printing to, and then you apply it. So it's been a little different in the direct-to-garment marketplace. But basics, back to the basics of the machines themselves and the process. First and foremost, and these are questions I get all the time, it's a printer. So somehow you're going to have to generate or have generated for you artwork. What does that consist of? In today's marketplace, you know, the core programs that most people use are going to be the Adobe products, either Photoshop or Illustrator, or CorelDRAW. All 3 of those work fine. No reason to say, hey, go buy one if you don't have the other one. So you're going to need something to generate your artwork or something to manage your artwork that you bring in. All right? And then you're going to need the products that come with the machine. The machine itself includes a RIP. What a RIP is a raster image processor. Do you need to get across, Mark?
I do. This drives me crazy. The technicians always leave this open.
All right. Sorry. Mark was sitting there. You could just see he was going crazy. He's trying to do something. All right. But you need a RIP software. The RIP software is included with all of our printers. RIP software stands for a raster image processor, and what that does is it does several things that you need before you go to print a shirt. Number one, most folks who are not in the apparel industry or even are new to printing directly onto garments, you might be an embroiderer, you might be an engraver, whatever, don't comprehend fully how do you get that white underbase that allows you to print on a dark shirt. No worries about that when you're working with a RIP software. The RIP softwares we use in the apparel industry, the direct-to-garment side, actually generate our white underbase for us. I'll show you here in a few minutes that part of it. Secondarily, what you needed to do is to be able to position onto the platens where you want it to go. You want it to color correct for you. You want it to be able to calculate ink costs. All those things are incorporated into the RIP. That will allow you to be more effective, more efficient, allow you to bid your jobs right if you need to bid a job, allow you to at least keep a tab on how much you're spending, because you don't want to be calculating based on 35 cents worth of ink and the job has 90 cents worth of ink. And you don't want to be calculating $1.50 worth of ink and you have 20 cents worth of ink on the shirt as well. All right? So that's it. That's the software side. There's some tweaking that you'll do to your artwork, some things that just like any other thing that you've done in this apparel industry, if you're new, if you're into the industry, is you've learned that for each of your pieces of equipment, like Mark was mentioning earlier, he was talking about maybe you do sublimation, maybe you are a screen printer, maybe you're an embroiderer. You know, the core files you probably started with are all great for that, and you've just done a little bit of different things to each of those files to get them to perform with that output device well, whether it's in a, you know, there's also the lasers, the color lasers and things like that. They're just slightly different things you do for each of them to give you the best results. Probably embroidery is the most radical that you do to change it up. But you're going to get your graphic file, you're going to bring it in. About the only real constraints that you have is you want it to be a high enough resolution. And general rule we tell you is if you're going to print it 10 inches wide by 12 inches long, When it's 10 inches wide by 12 inches long on your computer screen, make sure that it's at least 300 DPI.
Yeah, make sure it doesn't look like Legos.
Yeah, you don't want it to, guys, stealing artwork off of somebody's website that they use as a button to push.
That will not.
It's like 6 blocks.
That will not work.
It's about 6 blocks when you size it up.
Yeah.
So you need a good image. If you're printing onto a light colored shirt, it does not matter if the image has a white background, because when we're printing onto a light colored shirt, we're not recognizing the background. It's going to look at that at white as nothing, so it will not generate it. So in those cases, the high-res JPEG works fine. However, when you're printing on dark shirts, you do need a transparent background on the design, which is generally achieved through a Photoshop file, PSD, a TIFF file, a PNG file. We can import PDF files and whatnot. So generally, if you're creating your own artwork, you want to just go ahead and generate them with a transparent background, because you may at some point want to print that on a dark shirt, even if it's initially for a light colored shirt. However, if you're doing shirts for a Little League team and they've just shot it on their camera and it's a JPEG that's brought into you, doesn't matter, you're going to be printing on some light colored shirts anyway. Right. All right. If it's something that's rectangular, it's easy enough to get rid of the background. It's when you have a lot of contortions and whatnot on the shape and you don't have a solid background that you have some challenges.
Somebody in a patterned shirt in the woods.
Like he said.
Tough
what
one.
the heck was it? You don't wear madras in the woods. The pattern I wear would be realtree and mossy oak and whatnot in the woods. All right. So that's the graphic side of it. So you do have to, getting into this direct-to-garment, you need to have a computer. You need to have at least some level of understanding of graphics software. I was having a conversation with a guy the other day, and I used a term he hadn't heard before. You don't have to be an artist, but you certainly need to be a image mechanic. So when somebody gives you artwork, you're able to clean it up, make sure it's functionable, right? You're able to do things to it, like add text and things like that. Yeah. So you need to have some level of competency with graphic software, or somebody on staff, or somebody available to you who
or
does.
you have to be willing to learn that and actually
learn it.
Take the time and maybe buy an online class or attend a class and learn it.
If you've watched any of my webinars before, you'll hear I'm going to say a phrase that I've said multiple times. Buying the direct-to-garment printer, which is on this side,
yes,
buying a direct-to-garment printer no more makes you a graphic artist than buying a set of the Rachel Ray knives off of the Food Network makes you a chef.
Right.
You have a really cool set of knives sitting in your kitchen that you use to slice butter or something like that, right? It doesn't make you a chef. No more so than buying one of these beasts here turns you into Rembrandt or into Ed Hardy or Affliction,
Good
right?
one. Yeah.
So you do have to have somebody who can understand and manage those graphics. If your stuff's coming in from your customers, that's fine. You still have to be able to manage it to optimize the artwork so you give your customer the best result.
And to manage their expectations based on the artwork that they give you.
Exactly, because you know what happens when you polish a turd? You get a shiny turd, right?
Thanks. We've got to think of another example.
Right, we've had some. Why did those pop up?
I don't know.
Oh, we've never had that happen before.
Yeah.
What is the name of the rip that comes with the DTG? Terry, it is called DTG Rip Pro C6. It is written by a company called Cadlink Technology Corporation. Their core product, I forget the base name of it, but it is their core engine with tweaks for our specific direct-to-garment printers.
Jim, I'm going to stop talking.
Jim, thank you. Thank you. From my heart, I thank you. Tom says, can you do halftone base plate to have some areas in the white underbase and other areas of it off? Okay, great. So Tom, it does not do a solid white underbase. It doesn't do a halftone like a screen printer would. Obviously, you're a screen printer because you understand the word halftone. Right. But what it does is it's content-based underbasing. So when you look at a bright yellow, okay, there's going to be 100% white under that bright yellow. When you look at a purple or you look at a fade, whatnot, it's going to be relative to the color that's on top of it. The RIP automatically does do that. There is a setting in the RIP that hardly anybody uses where we'll also do halftoning. So if you wanted to simulate a specific job that you'd done halftoning in, it will do halftoning for both the underbase and for the color layer, if you do need that. So few people use that part though. But it does, it's content based. When we start printing this dark shirt here in a couple minutes, I'll bring the camera over and you'll see that the underbase is not a solid outline. It's actually, this is really tonal. I've had people who come in who are artists go, wow, I could sell the shirt with just the white ink. Is there a work, Rich? Not really. Let me put it this way.
Gotta read the question first.
Yeah. Is there a workaround for printing a JPEG photo on a black shirt? If it's a photo, it's probably a rectangle. All right? So it doesn't matter. Okay? Your whole picture is it, so there's not any white outside to be printed. Okay? If your image were to have any shapes to it at all, and then a white background, it's going to recognize that white and print it. Okay? There is, if you were to turn the background to black, there is a way to knock out the black, but then it's not going to print any black in the shirt itself and in the designs, which in a lot of cases you want to have some of that just to give you some subtle toning in it. But in order to do just a photo, yeah, the photo, you just crop the photo and you crop out any background around it, it doesn't matter. As opposed to if you think of a design somebody gives you as a JPEG that's a bunny rabbit, and you're just going to want to print the bunny rabbit to be a standalone in the middle of the shirt. If it's a JPEG, it's a bunny rabbit sitting on a white base. It's going to print that whole white rectangular base. Here's an example of a photo. Like that photo, this is actually printed on a canvas, right? That one, absolutely, you could print that on a black shirt because there's no outer base around the outside. You have outer outline out there you have to worry about being printed as white. The challenge is not that the JPEGs won't print on a dark shirt. It's that it's going to print everything that's there on a dark shirt. Okay? All right. So going ahead and get rid of a couple of these. That's funny how they didn't pop up over there.
Yeah, I know. Just all at once.
All right. So I'm going to slide this down here so we can still see it. All right. Back to our story. Before we go further, questions more on the software side. Now, I understand I am going to show it to you here in a minute or two.
Right.
So I'm just kind of going to go through a real quick overview of the process. We have our artwork ready. Now, the next step is we're printing on dark shirts. We're going to need to pre-treat the actual garment itself. Why is that? Because we're going to print white ink. Why do we need to pre-treat for white ink? Because the white ink actually has to become a foundation that we can print our colors onto. Because if not, the white ink is going to soak into the black shirt, and next thing you know, we print the colors on top of it, and there's nothing there to hold the colors up. They're going to disappear into the shirt as well.
And change color.
Trust me, we've done this before.
Yeah, and change
We've
color.
done this in demos. We've done this at trade shows. And we tell people we did this intentionally so you would see what happens if you don't pre-treat the shirt.
Yeah.
The pre-treat creates a barrier that actually interacts with the white ink when it hits it. What that does is it basically keeps the white ink on the top of the shirt instead of absorbed into the shirt, and it starts the drying process of the actual white ink. For the screen printers out there, think of it as a chemical flash as opposed to you using a flash unit. And then when I come back over, I can lay the colors on top of that, and that's going to allow my colors to sit up top, and we'll get some really beautiful colors on top.
And once again, you'll see that when we print.
In fact, what we're going to do is, as this part we will do now, all right?
Okay.
All right, I've already got some shirts loaded up here, but I went ahead and I have an extra shirt. This is a scrap shirt, but I'm going to go ahead and load this in. This is our pre-treatment machine called our Spider Mini. You load it into here. You can also do this by hand. We do include a Wagner sprayer that allows you to pre-treat by hand. But once you loaded this, you slide it in, you mash the button.
Even a marketing guy could do it.
It's so simple, a marketing guy could do it. You could actually employ a marketing guy doing this once he loses his job. But now that shirt's pre-treated, simply what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this onto the heat press. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little fine mist. Yeah, you can probably, yeah, you go. You can see the mist right there. That's the pre-treat on it. Throw this onto the heat press,
yep,
and literally throw it. And what we're going to do is, do you have a sheet in here, Tim? Yeah, one over around the corner. I would throw this on.
I'm going to bring this around a little bit better.
By the way, in case you all were wondering, Tim is my imaginary friend. I talk to him all the time. Throw down a piece of release paper, and I'm going to press this generally until it dries. When heat pressing after pre-treat, Jim is asking, no, the shirt itself does not. The part that's being pressed does. So we shoot for it to stop steaming. You may not be able to see. You may be able to see right here. You see a little bit of the steam happening right there. We look for it to stop steaming. Here in Florida, where we have fairly high humidity, this is usually about a 30, 35-second process. Some drier areas, you might do it in 20. But you're not looking, I mean, you're not crisping the shirt, but you want it to be dry. But there's nothing I can do about the overhang.
Right right now in Arizona, you just walk it outside.
You just walk it outside if you're in Arizona. And if I hear anybody say dry heat, I will slap you because I felt that 120-degree dry heat. But that's dry right now, and I'm ready to print on it. Okay?
Yep.
So we've pre-treated it. We've loaded our shirts onto the actual platen, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this back a little bit. We have right in here an actual laser system. Most direct-to-garment printers have some type of system. Some of them are manually set for heights and whatnot. We actually use an automatic point. What I do is I hold the up button. You want to roll over here, Mark?
I do. And by the way, let's take a look at these because I don't know if everyone knows what a platen or a platen is.
Yep. Well, as soon as, tell you what, we're going to print some black shirts and we're going to pull them off. We'll show them the white.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to hit this up button, and if you can see, why don't you come a little bit further so we can see the light. All right. See the light, Mark? There's a green light right here. You may not see it because of the
It's so bright
angle,
in here.
But when I go up, you should see it turn red. There, it turned red. What I did is I brought that shirt platen up until it tripped that light beam. Now we know that our print head is set to the right height. Then I'm going to roll over here. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to load. That's actually going to retract those back into the machine. You may have heard it there a little bit, zip, zip, zip. What that was is as it's loading, that's why it loads slowly, while it's loading it's checking the height as well for the whole length of the shirt, and it's making the adjustments as it goes. Okay? All right, now we're going to have to change screens. We're going to go over and, you're hiding my handsomeness here, brother.
I am.
All right. We're going to change screens on you here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the RIP software. All right.
Now remember, we just switched from the camera to the computer screen, so if you're having trouble, you can't find us, hit that blue snowflake on the bottom of your screen.
I think on some programs it may be purple as well.
Okay.
Yeah, like actually a magenta color. All right, so this is our RIP software. The RIP software basically has what I call super cues and then cues. The super cues would be these up here, black shirts, color shirts, white shirts, whatnot. Those are saying, okay, this is the type of settings I have under here. Underneath each of those subcategories, I'm going to have subcategories. Now I have a couple of printers, drivers loaded up here. Yours would only have M series or only have Viper 2. This is a demo package we use. All right, so here I am choosing the M series black graphics best. This is going to give us our highest quality print. It's going to be a slower print than our production mode, which would be under just the standard black graphics, right? However, it's going to give me the best possible print. What I've chosen over here is my 2-up, and I have this set up so this 2-up is going to give me, I'm going to use this one here, it's this 2-up same. What that's going to do is when I bring a graphic in, it's going to populate both of these platens. This dark gray here represents the base plate of the printer. The light gray actually represents my platens. And we have different platen options you can see underneath it here. Whether it's a 2-up toddler, 2-up youth, youth sizes. We also have a sleeve platen with different prints, sleeve platen with same up, whether I do 2-up or 4-up of those. So you have all these, and you can create your own templates as well. Jim is asking, it's not really a lower quality, Jim. It's less ink. You printed a lower resolution, putting down less ink, and you're going to get a quicker print. We find that about 80% of our customers print in the production mode as opposed to graphics mode, the best mode, simply because it gives them great output as opposed to just about perfect output, but it gives it to them at a lower cost of production and in terms of ink, as well as a lot faster productivity. You know, it's the way that it works in direct to garment. The lower the resolution we print at doesn't necessarily degrade the print quality. What it does is it puts less ink down. So you don't have quite the vibrancy, but you're doing it at a faster production. It really depends on what the job is about. All right, so back to our story. Thanks for the question, Jim. I'm going to go ahead in here. I'm going to bring in an image, and we threw a couple images here, some images. I'm actually going to jump up on my desktop. We threw a couple images up here, and it was called Elephant Black Shirt. I want to take this, drop it in. I'll just open it up, sorry, because I don't have the separate screen up. As you see right here, it's actually bringing this graphic into both of my platens at the same time. It's going to generate a preview for us, allow us to position the size. I want to make those a little bit smaller, and it's pretty cool. You'll see that when I size this, both elephants size at the same time. They position at the same time. Looks pretty good to me. One thing I do want to do is I want to make sure that when I quoted the customer, I didn't blow it and miss on the cost of the ink. So I'm going to go to rip only, and it's actually going to process this job. You see, actually, if you've ever done this, this process is a lot quicker than if these were separate jobs, because it's actually only ripping one of these elephants, and it's just going to duplicate the information over here. Since my jobs are the same, and since it only ripped one of my images, this image, each one of them costs $1.46. If I had printed two separate images here, it would have given me a job cost here that would have been cost A plus cost B, and I would have an option here to open up and look at the per item cost separate on those, because they would be ripped separately. I'm happy with that. I figured about $2 for ink. I'm ahead of the game with this one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go in here and I'm going to print the job. All right. And we're good. Boom. All right. That's because we move things around. Every time we plug the printer back in and we move around, it had me configure that. All right. While this is going, I'm going to hop up here, and we're going to turn back on the camera. Hopefully y'all can see me all right. I'm going to slide this over here, and you can see the printer starting to print. Kind of boring right now. You won't be able to see a whole lot, but we'll be able to show you here shortly when it starts to come out the white. Any questions so far on the process itself of the direct-to-garment printing? Did I do that good of a job? You guys got no questions. I like that. Mama's going to be happy I'm getting home early tonight. You can see the head. We're going to make Mark mad, all right? Oh, all of a sudden the questions appear. 3 of them at once. Yes, great question, Terry. Standard 110 outlet. Really about the only electrical concerns you have with direct-to-garment, again, great question, because this allows me to take it somewhere we do, is your heat presses need to be on a separate dedicated circuit of 110. You can bring that in there if you want, Mark. All right. Separate from the computer equipment. And someone who was earlier was asking about the half toning. If you look up in the top part there where you see the different white on the ColDesi logo itself, that's an example of how it's tonal based on the actual content. But 110 outlet, you can put your computer and your printer on the same outlet. You could even put the pre-treatment machine on, but you just want to isolate your heat presses. So if you're setting up a shop and you're wondering about electric, have your electrician I would say put at least 2 extra circuits in of 110s, 20 amp circuits, and run them for you while they're there doing it, because one of the real things that you will do as you grow your business is you're going to add more heat presses. Mm-hmm. We recommend 2 heat presses for these machines when you're running them in production, because it's going to become a bottleneck. And secondarily, as you go, you're going to add things like a cut and press, maybe rhinestone spangle, sublimation, other things like that require them.
Did you already talk about the fact that you're printing 2 shirts at once? Did I miss that?
We're printing 2 shirts at once, yes.
No
Rich is asking, what are the available substrates that can be printed on? Direct-to-garment market, for the most part, is a cotton-friendly marketplace. However, we do print on blends. We can print on light-colored polys. I have customers who print on canvases, customers who print on raw wood. So there are a lot of other options out there for that. Coffee bags, yeah, which is a burlap-type cotton material. So yeah, Tom, good question. Do white shirts need to have pre-treatment as well? When you're printing with the P30i ink, which comes with the M2, yes, we do pre-treat the white shirts ahead of time. When you print with the Viper 2, which uses a different ink set, you do not have to. However, there are options for that, which will give you a little bit more vibrancy. but it adds another step to the process. So, Lori, I don't know if you've gotten this back. Look for your little snowflake and click on it. I'm there somewhere. It's because when we change, sometimes you need to pop it. So you may want to hit that little snowflake again. Yeah, I got you. I think I covered that, Rick. You know, when you do dark shirts, the higher the cotton content, the better, because the higher the amount of polyester that's in the fabric, the more you're going to get that actual fabric dyes bleeding into the white, which is going to distort your colors based on your white changing more to the color of the shirt. So you certainly want to stay away from 100% polys on darks, but I've had folks who are doing it on 50/50s. You're just not going to get the same vibrancy you will on cotton. Good question. He's asking about DTG versus heat pressing iron-ons. Is it superior? This is a tough question, you know, Enrique, because I don't know what you think of quality and what you think of as superior. The benefits of heat transfer, let's start with that. Lower cost of equipment, and I mean radically lower cost of equipment.
Depending on how you're making the transfer.
And generally, if you're just doing inkjet or laser or standard laser transfers, you're limited to light colored shirts. They tend to have a much heavier hand, and they tend to be a lot more expensive per image to print. Okay? This same image on a white shirt with a heat transfer would probably be about $2.25 just for a light colored shirt. Secondarily, obviously, you can't do darks with standard transfers. You can buy systems like the Oki and whatnot, which are laser based. They tend to have a lot more of a hand. And
absolutely.
My experience with those is they tend to excel in the synthetic items, things that you really wouldn't traditionally direct to garment print. You know, umbrellas, things like that.
And there's a size difference too. I mean, what's the maximum print size on the M2?
I can go 16.5 by 24 on this.
Right.
And usually your limitation on those are 11 by 17 for the expensive one.
Yeah.
And you know,
and that 11 by
11.
17 actually means probably 9 by 15.
Right, right. No, good question, Jim. Do you have to rip it each time you print if you order 20 shirts? No, what I would do is I would simply just click on this 2 images that I printed. I just click on that file, hit print again, and it's going to start printing it right away. So you rip it once, print it many times is what they call it. And for those of you guys who maybe think production-wise, if I've got a job that I just nail it and I have all my settings exactly the way I want, I can actually save that post-ripped file and then just dump that post-ripped file. So every time I open it up, everything is the same. The settings, the sizing, the positioning, all of that's the same. I don't have to worry about my memory of what it was done like or an employee changing something like that. That absolutely helps you to have 100% control.
It's the digital equivalent of saving the screens.
Yeah, so that's your repeat order, Jim. If you're going to do that on a regular basis and you have hard drive space, just save those post-rip files for those customers so you know that there's no changes from time to time. Other treatments for poly blends, not on printing on dark. For wood, we actually just spray the white ink pre-treatment onto the wood. Because all we're trying to do is just make it grab the inks and hold on, and then you just post-coat it with a nice clear coat. Coleman & Company sells a nice clear coat. If you have access to automotive clear coat, it's absolutely the best because it will seal anything. Can you print on materials with spandex? You can. The key is how much heat the spandex itself can handle. So you may have to stage dry it. What I mean is if it's on light, or we tell you to let it, you know, number one, you wouldn't want to print on dark spandex because the spandex is designed to stretch, and all it's going to do is going to crack the white ink. So on lights, you would do it, and we tell you a minute to cure. What you probably want to do is do 30 seconds, open up, let it cure, cool a little bit, and go back down for 30 seconds, just to keep from melting the spandex itself.
Let's take a look at printing the color as well.
Here we go. It's printing the colors right now. Yes, all of the inks we use it's a water-based pigmented ink with binders. Hey, Hussein. Good question. I didn't time how long it would take to print. We could have to look at the video. These two designs we're probably looking at taking about 10 minutes to print, about 5 minutes a shirt. We're at high quality mode. It's a fairly large graphic. It's a big graphic. Yep. Does any negative impact you get for higher poly content show up? You know, understanding a lot, the direct-to-garment industry, a lot of folks get into it who aren't familiar, and I'm not saying this is you, Jim, but a lot of folks get into it who aren't familiar with apparel. Basically, the way that they dye polyester, the way that we dye cotton, natural fibers is different. The inks that are, the dyes that are used in polyesters are very reactive. If you've ever ironed a 50-50 red golf shirt, it turns maroon on you. Why? Because those dyes are very reactive. And so, you know, until there are inks that can cure at a much lower temperature, like 120 degrees cooler than they cure now, it'll be very difficult, number one. Secondarily, we've been working on this for almost 4 years now, and there's been over $4 million spent on developing the technology. And in fact, for a full year, the concerns of printing on dark polyester have been sitting in North Carolina State University with their textile division, some of the brightest minds in this industry working on it. And the challenges that we keep facing is when we get things right for the pre-treat to hold the white ink up and to cure at a low enough temperature that we're not going to get the dye migration, then the pre-treatment itself on the shirt creates a refraction which changes the color of the shirt. So it's not something that's not been worked on. I mean, right now we have a solution we can release for black shirts, right, but only for blacks and dark blues. As soon as you got to things like dark oranges and dark reds, you would start to see that shift of it. So, you know, the results, I'm thinking, I guess, now that I'm reading your question, the results, no, they don't really get any worse with time. Whatever it looks like when you're done is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
So that's not going to change. So I went a little bit further into your question than you thought. So if your customer's happy with it when they get it, now, if they throw it into the dryer for 2 hours, they're going to heat that up again. The dyes migrate into the ink. I'll tell you how aggressive the polyester dyes are. We had a customer up on our custom apparel startups who actually had put white vinyl, heat transfer vinyl onto a garment that was 100% poly, and the dyes migrated into the vinyl.
Yeah.
It's not even a liquid.
That's crazy.
It is. If the inks are there any inks added? No, there's not, Terry. If you're looking for blockers, there are not. Trust me, if they thought there would be. The challenge is that at about 250 degrees, the dyes gas out. At all of the inks on the marketplace require at least 335 degrees to cure. And there are next to no polymers on the market that are designed to set up at that low of a temperature. So I know what you're saying with the blockers, but no, and it would have to be in the white ink. For a startup company exploring the DTG economical machine available,
the Viper 2 is very economical.
Yeah, the Viper 2, you could literally get started with the promos we're running right now with delivery for under $16,000 for a Viper 2 with a
which is crazy
heat press. There is a zipper hoodie attachment, so yes, we do offer that. I think that's Rich's question. It's a separate plating, but we do have it. I think I answered those questions. Dang, we're going pretty good here. What about printing over seams or on the collar? Is that possible? It is, Tom, but understand, as you can see, this print head is going back and forth. It's staying in a level plane as it's going across. I don't know why I'm waving my hand. You can't see it. It's going this way. In a level plane.
They can actually see the print head.
All right. So the only way to deal with it is A, press your shirt a lot to help lay down those seams and those ridges and whatnot a bit more. Secondarily, you're just going to have to work with art that's more distressed, because we're going to have to set that print head, as I showed you guys at the beginning. I'm going to have to set that off of the highest point. So it is difficult to do unless you actually want to build something to go over top of the platen that you've routed out so that those components would sit down, which is in essence what the zippered hoodie platen does.
Right.
But you'd have to do that for every size and every style of shirt you had to be able to get it perfect. What you're trying to access is generally done with screen printing with belt printers where they have on-contact printing, or it also is done with sublimation, or it's done in cut and print. where they actually
That's
literally
most
they print
common.
and cut, and they actually cut and sew and make the garments from scratch. So can you print on? No, you really can't, because
That's to Tim's question.
yeah, Tim's question. Tim wants to know if you can print on high-tech fabric used in athletic wear. Tim wants to know if you can print on Under Armour.
Right.
Which is what everybody wants to know. Not at this time, and probably not ever successfully with this type of quality for a lot of reasons. Number one, in order to be able to print this onto a Under Armour shirt, I'm going to have to defeat what that type of shirt, that wicking shirt, does. Right?
Repel water.
Which is repel water and wick it away from the thing. My inks are water. All direct-to-garment inks are water-based, all right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, a lot of those shirts are treated with stain and stink guards. I don't know about you guys, I work out quite a bit, and when I come back, my shirt smells like the southern end of a northbound skunk, right?
Okay.
If I don't buy one at higher tech, so because I buy cheaper athletic shirts, because I'm cheap. But a lot of them have a stink guard to them, and that stink guard repels stink. The word ink occurs in the word stink. So it's also going to repel your inks. Sort of like a chef's jacket or chef's aprons. I've had people try and print on those. Some of those don't work because a lot of those are treated with a Teflon to prevent staining. So I don't see those type of things. If you look at it now, screen printers don't even like to screen print on them.
Yeah.
Generally on those types of high performance wear, you're going to see them embroidered and you're going to see them done with the heat transfer vinyl. And in most cases, those things are also only done very small.
Yeah.
Because they want to minimize the impact of defeating that aspect. Put a big logo on the back, and all of a sudden the guy's got
Sweat right through it.
A sweat wad right in the back, in the middle of his back, and he's going to be uncomfortable.
ROI question. I like that.
Of course Mark does. What is the typical ROI for basic entry level pre-treat? All right, so a typical package, minimal 16,000 with the Viper 2 and the heat press, up to a full-blown Viper M2 pre-treatment machine, a couple of heat presses, extra platens, going to be in the mid-20s.
Yep.
All right. So it's going to depend on that. It's going to depend on what your market is. Huge marketplace for this. A lot of niche markets. You may be into a niche market where you're dealing with Star Trek fans, or you're dealing with people who raise coonhounds.
He looked at me when he said Star Trek
And I
fans.
pointed at me when I said coonhounds.
Yeah.
But so those niche markets are markets where you can sell the $20 and $25 and $35 shirts, right? You're going to sell a lot of one-offs. So in those cases, your ROI on the machine might be only a couple thousand shirts.
Yeah. $10 profit a shirt, 2,000 shirts, $20. $20,000.
Bingo. All right, but that's not the niche everybody's in. If you're going to be servicing people and you're going to be doing shirt printing, you're going to probably find that your average is more in the $6 range, $5 or $6 range profit per shirt, and averaged over that. So your ROI may be 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 shirts based on that. And it really depends on how you get them. The challenge is not whether the machine can produce it and whether you can make money with it. The question is, can you sell it?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the niche people find it happens a lot more quickly, because they have a demographic they can find, they can be home-based, and they can get up on a website or they get in social media and just crush it because they're selling to a full house. I'll go way, way back to one of my earliest customers with direct-to-garment who really excelled with it, and they were going after a niche market, and they did some. This is back before people even knew what SEO was, right? Yeah. Very few people knew what Google AdWords were, and they were relatively cheap. So they actually bought themselves to the top of the page, and I don't remember the exact year. Let's say it was 2008. They did 2008 senior class T-shirts, right? And so instead of just saying custom T-shirts or senior T-shirts or anything like that, they bought this very specific targeted ad. Their traffic to their website plummeted, and 80% of the people that came to their website bought.
Yeah.
All right. Why? They narrowed down to a niche. People who were looking for senior class T-shirts for 2008 went to their site, and saw what was available, and bought
for good money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you have a question about that, go up and just search in custom printed T-shirts, all right? And then look up something like, pick up some strange character from Star Wars and search that. If you're a fan of Glodwalk or whatever his name is, right? And you go to that site and he's there, you're going to buy one of those shirts. And then you're going to pay top dollar. Another example would be, I use the Ford example. You'll go pay $10. You're a Mustang enthusiast and you have a fastback Mustang, right? You'll go pay $10 for a Ford shirt. You might pay $15 for a Ford Mustang shirt. You might pay $20 for a Ford Mustang fastback shirt. You'll pay $30 for your Ford Mustang fastback on a shirt.
Yeah.
All right. The further out on the branch you go, the less leaves that are there, but the higher price the leaves are. It's, you know, I use an example of myself. I'm a bow hunter, but I hunt with traditional equipment. I hunt with a longbow. So if I go into Bass Pro Shops or something like that and I see a shirt that's got a guy bow hunting with a compound bow in a tree, I might pay $10 for it. If he's got a recurve, I might be a little more excited, maybe 15. If he's got a longbow and he's wearing maybe more traditional garb, I'll pay 20.
Yeah.
We all have that same type of thing. And if you look at your shirts in your drawer, you'll start to see the ones you spent the most or somebody spent the most on for you are going to be much more specialized and much, you know, not just generic type of T-shirts. So that's where you can make your better ROIs when you're in a niche. But then again, if you're only printing 6 shirts a day as a niche, I would rather be printing 60 shirts a day at $6 a shirt than $6 at $10 a shirt profit. Are these images of printable? A lot of these are actually off the internet, but I'm sure we can get them for you. You just can't sell them.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So yeah, we would probably be able to help you with that, Jim.
Yeah, we'll tweak those and send you a file.
Aside from the zipper plating, do you have platings for shoes, hats, and other areas? We do have ones for hats. We have sleeve platings. We have smaller platings for 6x6 size. Yeah. We have a 10x13. We have several different sizes. Yeah. Shoes, no, we don't, because it's ridiculous to print on shoes. And I said it here live on TV. Because if you've ever seen the process that goes into it with taping off all of the eyes, taping off the round logo that's on it, and realizing that when you screw up, you just wasted a $40 pair of shoes. Yeah. It's a ploy to sell platinum.
Tom, print T-shirts.
Yes.
They're really profitable and they're much easier.
And realistically, Tom, there's only one printer on the market that can do it effectively, and that's the Brother, because they have the type of head they have shoots a different sized beam, so they can actually print from further off the surface, right? That's why they don't print shirts as well as we do, is because they shoot from a higher distance, and they put down a lot more ink, so they can get away with a wider gap, so you don't have to worry as much about eyelets and other pieces of the shoe being in the way. And then you buy a $2,000 platinum heat press for it to be able to do it. Yeah. What about the interior label printing? You can do it. It's not profitable. It's a waste of time and resources. You're better off. There are companies that actually will generate a transfer for you that's on a roll. You can do your private, if you're wanting a private label, I assume that's where Tom's going. He's asking about private labeling. You absolutely can do it that way. But if you think about it, the cure time on the inside of that collar is the same as the cure time on the front. Now, if you have spare time on your hands, absolutely. Turn the shirts inside out. I would probably get the sleeve platens, turn it on there, print them, press them 2 at a time to do it. But realistically, if it was my business and I was going that way, I would just pay somebody to make up the transfer tags and press them in myself as I go. You're talking about 10 seconds, boom, they're pressed in, and you go. If you bulk pre-treat, how long will they last? I've printed shirts that were 6 months pre-treated. Yeah. You want to make sure that they stay with something separating them that keeps them from sticking together, and you certainly want to press them right before you print them. But if you stick them together, what's going to happen is they get moist, they're going to rehydrate, and when you pull them apart, you'll pull pinholes in it. But the pre-treat itself lasts on the shirts. You know, like I said, we've done it at trade shows where we pulled out shirts and go, when the heck were those from? We look at them, they were like trade shows prior, and they printed fine. How much should we plan for waste? Okay. You know, Jim, the general answer to that is probably 4 or 5% to be safe. My rule is 10%, and what I mean by that is I do a lot of work stuff for the National Wild Turkey Federation for my church, and so when I order shirts, my rule is 10% or at least one shirt. So if I have one guy who needs a 2XL, I order 2XL. If I have 9 people who order mediums, I order 10 mediums. I have 13 that order larges, I order 14 larges. If I have 16, I'll order 19. 18. Good math there. Bah. But generally, go ahead and figure 10% just to be safe, just because your failure rate's probably going to be 3%, but you don't know what size it's going to be on. So always figure that, build that in.
We're coming down on the end here, folks, so please get your questions in.
How much time per day, a week is needed to keep the print heads clean? 5 minutes a day?
Maybe 10
5
if you're
minutes.
slow.
If you're using the machine a lot, you're going to do more back-end maintenance, which is cleaning it up before you put it to bed. Just like any other tool you have, right? You're going to put it to bed clean, right? And by the way, don't believe all the crap you read on the internet. I said that. You can say crap on.
Yes, you
can. We own this channel.
On TV.
Ah,
yes.
Right. A lot of the stuff that you're going to read that's on the internet is 5, 6, 7-year-old information. The maintenance and operation of these machines is a heck of a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah. By used to be 2 years ago.
Not even that.
3.
4 or 5 years ago. And you know, understand there's a lot of first, second, and third generational machines are starting to hit the used market. And they still have the same problems they did in the earlier days. The inks are a little bit better, but they didn't have the resources to keep them things good as they will. Tom answered him. What percentage of a garment's cost should we attribute to sales? You mean the cost, Jim? General rule, customer mind, you use this math. He figured double the cost of the garment, what you paid for it, and then bill for your printing. And he just based his on, based on the size of the graphic, how many minutes it would take to print. But he typically did a keystone on, which is a doubling of the cost of the garment. And if you choose, when the orders get larger, you might go to 1.75 or 1.5 multiplier for the garment. How do we get cost information to appear in the software? It's there. You have to make sure that you have values put in for each of the inks cost.
Kelly, if you're a DTG customers, please just come to one of the Tech Talks and ask them to show you where it is.
Yeah, they'll show you. But it's something that you actually input your cost of the inks, and then when you process the job in that queue, it's going to tell you the ink cost. And actually, Kelly, if haven't customized your RIP, it's probably off of the page. It's like the 7th
scroll
or 8th
over to the right.
For these shows, we usually bring it in so you can see it. Somebody been looking at the M4 for overall prints. Can you talk about that, and can you do over or close to the over? So Tom, the M4 is an M2 with a longer bed. The largest print area on it is 24 inches by 47 inches. Wow. So will you do an overall print on a shirt? No, not in one pass. You actually need a printer that's about 36 by 36 to be able to do a full print. When you figure out how big a shirt can be, you could probably get by with 30 by 30. Nobody makes a printer that big in direct to garment, but you certainly can do very large prints. You need a very large heat press to do it. So hopefully that answers your question. It is the largest print area on any printer on the market, basically, is the M4. And the M4 XL, which is extended, has a 47-inch. Best thing I would tell you to do is take a table and take some masking tape and mark out a 24 by 47. Give yourself realistically, you need to give yourself a half-inch gap all the way around, so go 23 inches wide. The 47 is not a problem. I know that's going to work. And start laying shirts on it and see how you can angle them and get the print areas you might look for.
Yep.
How do you see the cost of printing the software? Same question we had before. It's there. You have to make sure you put the ink values in, because there's not any ink values in when you get it. If it's showing you nothing. How many days can it sit idle with not in use? Viper 2, I would say a week or two. The M2, you probably need to use it once a week. All right? And certainly you want to do your daily maintenance while you're running the machine. Great. You're going to be here in September.
Terry, just skip the ISS show and come see us.
Yeah, exactly. You'll actually probably see more people here at our place than the ISS show.
That's what happens.
Yes, we intentionally did that because we try to keep our prices down. And even for us to go to Orlando, I know this may be crazy.
Yeah.
Which is 80 miles away from us. It's a $25,000 to $30,000 venture for us to do Orlando. Instead, we do the events here, and we do things like we're doing right now.
We hired more technicians.
We hired more technicians, and we do the support webinars, and getting better results for ourselves and our customers at better pricing. Why a heat press for curing instead of drying a tunnel cabinet? Because the inks require pressure, and you have to have a heat press anyway. Set the pre-treatment because it requires contact. So why not do it? Number one. Number two, most screen printers have belt dryers. Most screen printing environments are not friendly to $20,000 to $30,000 worth of electrical equipment because you're using spray tack and other things like that, and that's usually where your belt dryer is. And you can't run it at the same speeds. You can certainly, light-colored shirts you can absolutely dry in a belt dryer, but their dwell times are going to be much greater than what you do on plastisol inks because you have a lot of moisture. If you do any water-based screen printing, you know that. You have to slow your dryers way down because you have a lot of moisture to evaporate. And not only that, heat presses are a lot less expensive than 6 foot wide, 4 foot wide by 10 foot, 12 foot long belt dryers. So service, good question, Rich. I'm glad you brought that up. All of our techs are based out here. We do have a couple of independents out in the field. But one thing to address situations in the field is every one of our machines that goes out here goes out with a webcam. In fact, I think it's the same webcam I'm working on right now, isn't it? It's the exact same one that we're working on right now. And what you do is, if you have a problem, you're right there eyeball to eyeball with Tim, my fake friend over here, imaginary friend, and he's going to be able to look and see what is going on. And he's going to help you troubleshoot the issue. Tom, good question. You're in California. How do I get training? You get your training the same way that somebody in probably Jacksonville, Florida will, which is about 90% of our customers do our live online instructor-led training. Yeah. So you're actually going to be in your operation with
your machine.
and you're going to be dealing with John, who is our lead trainer, based out of our New Jersey office. You're going to go through every aspect of the setup and the operation of the machine, the software and everything. You're going to have videos, you're going to have PowerPoints, you're going to have exams all the way through, and John will be interfacing with you just like I'm interfacing with you to address the issues. It's free. You can take it as often as you like. If you personally take it 3 times, we do mock you. But
we do, but only internally. We don't publish anything. Yes,
but you are able to do it. You hire an employee. You're able to bring them in and set them up for the next
And there's
class.
The refresher, the live online training for refreshers.
Plus we do have all of the content that's in the live online instructor-led is also available as a PowerPoint that you can go back to as a refresher. If you want to break from California, you want to come to Florida, usually we don't have that happen a whole lot except during about November to about March. You're welcome to come to our office in Tampa, Florida. We also have an office in New Jersey as well if you do want classroom. But very few people, except for people in Florida, maybe Georgia, and a couple surrounding states of New Jersey opt for that.
And Mark's got a question about what's the best way to get training on graphic setup, rib settings, etc. That is to come to one of our tech talks.
Yes, exactly. We have our techs that they'll start off with a specific subject matter on the DTG, and you've got them for an hour and a half. So they don't have an hour and a half worth of content usually. So it's driven just like this webinar was driven by question. You'll be able to do that, and we do ones on like how to tweak your artwork and whatnot.
Yeah. That is.
Oh, do you have to wear? Doesn't matter. You actually you can stretch it across. You can lay it on it. You want to put it in there and tuck it in a bit. Where's the plate? I'll show you how you do it. I just happen to have a shirt right here. What you do is you lay the shirt onto it, and you just give it a quick tuck. You guys may not be able to see that because the question box is in the way. There we go. You just tuck in, and you're ready to go. And then you just fold these.
It's easy.
All right.
And Tom has a question. If
Man, I don't believe it took us until 8:03.
I know. Everybody asked that question first. No, you cannot use your Macintosh.
Yes, you cannot use a Mac to drive it. Just like you can't use a Mac to drive an embroidery machine, you can't use a Mac to drive a router or an engraver. There are some sign
Rhinestone machine.
But you can definitely bring in your PSD files. And frankly, is you don't want to tie a couple $1,000 Mac up just doing horsepower work, which is really what the RIP is about. Buy yourself a $400 or $500 PC, use a sneaker network, put it on a thumb drive, and bring it into the RIP.
All right, guys, that is it for the webinar tonight.
Mark's making me quit. I got 2
I
questions.
am.
All right, we're going to stop. Let me get these 2 questions. We'll stop with Hussein's question. Vibrancy with a photo or JPEG on black. Here.
Ooh, I get to show it off.
All right, now this is not a photo, all right, but that's the vibrancy of the colors right there.
Can you see that? I'm going to try to get it in here and hold it still.
You're a little close. So you get very vibrant colors because it puts on a solid, really good white underbase. When you're doing a photo, there's going to be a lot of white underbase.
I mean, it looks great.
They're definitely
it's a little
more vibrant.
in here.
Things are more vibrant on a dark shirt than they are on a light colored shirt, simply because of the fact that we're printing snow-driven, driven snow white underneath. Hussein, no, they do not seep through. There you go. Good question. These are good questions, man.
Yeah, I know.
You can see no seepage.
And if you're interested in a printer, just contact Don and we'll send you this sample.
Mark, if you don't use it once a week, do you need to worry about, if you're going to take a couple week break, get with the techs. They'll walk you through a hibernation process, flushing the lines out and putting cleaning solution into them. But when I say use it once a week, if you're not using it once a week, you're still in the office. You do your head cleans, do your nozzle checks, you're going to take care of it. I'm talking about being away from the printer and not doing your morning check that you
want to do that every
printer,
day.
Right?
You want to do the nozzle check and everything every day.
That shirt was a ring spun cotton. Was that a?
It's an anvil.
Anvil, I think. Anvil 380 we get from Sanmar, I believe, is where we buy them at. All right. The ring spun is the best. All right. Hey, I hope we covered your questions tonight. If we didn't, maybe further, or you all, if you were here and you gave us your contact information, you have an account manager will be assigned to you. They will be touching base with you, and they'll be glad to answer any questions. You can also contact me at dcopeland@coldesi.com. You can contact Mark through the Facebook page. A lot of times he prompts me off of the Facebook page.
Yep.
If any specific questions come out we didn't answer. Appreciate you guys coming out. Hope this is educational and helpful for you. And look forward to helping you guys grow your business and become part of the ColDesi family. Have a great evening.
Thanks, guys.